Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Rules of Engagement. As always, I'm your host, Nick axslav ranish. It's going to be a Starcraft 2 tactical analysis show brought to you by MLG. It airs every day of the week at 7 p.m. Eastern. Each day, a unique theme for you guys. Let's take a look at some of those daily themes right now. Every Monday, we're going to have Talking Tactics. That's going to be where I look at professional level replays, look at the tactics they use in those, analyze how you can use those tactics at home when appropriate to enhance your play. Tuesday, Developing Fundamentals. That's where we take a look at the core skill sets and kind of building block elements of putting together a strong game of StarCraft 2. How to really understand which fundamentals you have mastered and which ones you need to work on, and how to work about improving those fundamentals, and how to approach getting better at competitive or even just 1 vs 1 StarCraft 2 mode. Wednesday is going to be Mechanics of the Bizarre. So we take a look at professional replays, just like Monday, but this time with a little bit of a lemon twist stuck in there. It's going to be a little bit of crazy replays, some bizarre and funky ones. We're going to do crazy strategies, look at if that strategy worked, why it did, why we maybe don't see it being used all the time, or maybe we should see it used more. Thursday, Community Critique. That's your chance at home to have me look over all your Heart of the Swarm replays. Send it to me at majorleaguegaming.com/replays. You have a game you're playing and you died of mass widow mines, and you're like, I don't know how to beat these things, they're ridiculously imbalanced. You start punching your wall. Then you think, wait a minute, I'm just going to go to majorleaguegaming.com/replays, submit the replay, and figure out what it could have done. It'll save my wall some damage and save me some frustration in the future. Friday is a day of self-reflection. That's where I take a look at some of my own games and analyze the mistakes I made and how to do things better. Today's going to be a little bit of a fun episode. I haven't had really been able to play much Heart of the Swarm yet, so my ladder rating's not super high in Heart of the Swarm. So the game's going to be a little bit of funkiness going on today, some fun stuff. Fun stuff's great for everyone as well. So these all air at 7 p.m. Eastern. And at the end of every episode, there'll be a question and answer section. So feel free to tweet me questions anytime you want. You can tweet them now. You can tweet them 10 minutes from now. Tweet them half an hour from now, right when the show's ending. I probably won't get to them just because it takes me a little bit to monitor Twitter and everything. So tweet me questions any time of the day about anything. I answer them at the end of every single show. Let's jump into today's episode. It's going to be Friday, the day of self-reflection. First, I'll take a look at a replay where I was trying out Terran and some of my experiences with that. Then talking about how I tried to utilize the Phoenix buff in PvT, and what I'm talking about here is in Heart of the Swarm, the Phoenixes have extra range. So trying to utilize that against Terran. And then we're going to end up talking about a Planetary Fortress Rush, a little bit of a fun build to end off the weekday, get you guys started to kick off on your weekend. With that replay, and of course, question and answers at the end of the day. Let's jump into the first replay. It's going to be me trying out some Terran play in Heart of the Swarm. And I've tried a couple different things with Terran play. First, I'm going to compare 2 different openings, the one I use and one my opponent uses. Success and mistakes in the early and mid game. Successes and mistakes, that I encountered. And then the way I transitioned to battle cruisers in TVT as the game went on. So as we jump into this game, first we can see at the 5-minute mark, there's already different openings. So I went very fast command center first build, and I'm not even sure how this might be much weaker in Heart of the Storm than it was in Wings of Liberty because of the Widow Mine and the Siege Tank starting with Siege mode. It's 1-base Terran pushes are significantly stronger now. They hit much faster, so I'm not sure how strong this opening is, but whatever, it's okay. He's doing a tech build. It's a fast starport. And if he's opening a tech opening against a fast expansion like what I'm doing, the tech opening has to do some damage to even out the game. And like I mentioned before, the Widow Mines and the new Siege Tank make pushes much stronger, but they also make defensive options stronger. Widow Mines are great for defense, Siege Tanks are great for defense as well. So if you do get that fast expansion, I suggest doing what I did, which is getting, in fact, I actually get the refinery before the barracks, so I can get a factory out as soon as possible to really unlock these new, very powerful defensive options you have as a Terran player in Heart of the Swarm. So as we go through this, he's going to have to try to do some damage to me, right? So at first, I send a Marine out to scout. This is a mistake. When you only got 2 Marines, you shouldn't be sending one out to scout like that. If I want to scout, I should send an SCV because right now, losing the Marine is actually a pretty significant part of my defense I'm losing there. And now my bunker is a little bit late. So these are some mistakes I'm making just from not being particularly awesome. But it's okay, because I lose 1 SCV. I'm going to probably lose maybe another Marine here. Maybe not, actually. Nope, he's going to get the Marine. He's going to almost get this SCV, but I loaded up in the bunker before it dies. And I take a couple losses, but it's not too big a deal because remember, I did do this command center first. Noticing a single Hellion poking around our harass like that, what that tells me is that he didn't react to our Hellions, but he did tech. So I've got to be careful for things like drop play. Maybe Marine drop, maybe Hellion drop, maybe Widowmine drop, whatever it is. And I've also got to be careful of Banshee play. So what I do here is I'm going to grab my Widowmine, and I'm going to put him in the corner of my base where Banshees and drop play will most likely come by if it's towards from this side, of course. Could also come in the front, but that's what the bunker's there for. So trying to solidify this defense using these Widowmines. They're a great early game defensive tool. I'm also using the fact that I think my defense is very good just because I'm Terran. And so I can be really greedy with my upgrades. As you notice, the Widowmine detonated on the Banshee, took away the majority of its life, makes it much less of a pain to deal with. There was a time it needs to one-shot Banshees, and that was probably too strong. So the Banshee's doing some damage, but as you can see here with only 15 life, it's a fairly simple matter to just kill it with a scan. Don't have to worry about burning a bunch of scans and it kiting around your Marines too much. So Widowmine helps there a lot. As I mentioned, I was being upgrading very aggressively because I just wasn't scared of an attack. Now one of the mistakes I'm making here is, you notice I built a tech lab on a factory and I'm moving it away. There's really, well, I mean, with the siege tanks, they now start with siege mode. You should pretty much always get them, right? There's no reason for me to not build a siege tank. Because what if he was on one base? Like right now, I actually don't know. I'm assuming he's expanding. If he was on one base and he did some like mass tank marine push or something, or even a tank elevator attack, I'd be in big trouble without siege tanks of my own. I mean, if I was going like 4 barracks, then I could hold it with just bio units and SCVs. But the fact that I'm going these double E-bays, I've got to make a more cost-efficient defense and just get those siege tanks. So that's kind of a mistake I'm making. And it's weird because it's a risk, but there's no payout. Like, tanks are just amazing units. You should always get them. I kind of was like, well, let's see if I can play a game of TVT without making a single tank. And not suggested. Tanks are really amazing. The other thing I'm doing is these buildings should really all be placed a little bit back further. Just because the closer they are to the edge, the more vulnerable they are to Banshee play, drop play, and of course even units hang at the low ground here make it a little bit harder for me to move Marines around to protect the factory. So that's a little bit of another mistake there. I repositioned the Widowmine to zone the Banshee a little bit better. And then of course, if the Banshee's zoned when you push in with Marines, it pretty much only has one direction to go, right? It has to go straight back. And then it can't fight you. So he made some little miscontrol there, stayed a little bit too close to the missile turret, so it worked out for me. Meanwhile, so he's done some damage. If you look at the units killed, he's killed 10 workers so far. If we go back to the worker tab, he's still down by a lot, and that's just because I did a command center first build versus he teched all the way to Cloak Banshee, then build his command center. Now he's double expanding, which is what he should be doing. He's got the map control with the higher tech units and putting them on defensive. Double expanding is a great way to try to take advantage of the map control and catch up in economy. So as we go forward from here, there's a couple things I'm thinking about. One is trying to figure out exactly what he's doing, so I'm going to push out across the map here. And I should send a Marine to his third. It's just a complete mistake I don't. Instead, I kind of charge up here, I get blown up by siege tanks, and I see the medevac. And so at this point, I'm kind of thinking it's probably biomech, because there's a medevac. But, you know, with as many, I saw 3 siege tanks, and in fact, you have a Cloak Banshee and had some Hellions too. It could be pure mech, but I was thinking probably biomech just because of the medevac. It is pure mech, so I'm wrong. But that's just was my thought process throughout this game. You can see he's using these Widowmines here to defend against possible drop play. He should have probably one there too, but what you gonna do? You know, nobody's perfect. So I'm moving out again with another force here, trying to take some map control. Spreading my hurt Marines because I don't value my veterans very much. Spreading them out to basically try to catch drop play moving around to the sides. He did a little bit more Banshee harass, got a couple worker kills, but forced out again, and of course another Banshee over here. Gonna deal with that guy without too much of a problem. Now I'm taking my third. Another Banshee here, and I had to land to get a scan there. So he's being annoying with his Banshee harass. It's doing pretty good damage. As you can see here, he's got a supply lead. But a lot of the reason he has that supply lead is because I've invested so heavily in upgrades and he hasn't. So that kind of is why there's the big difference in supply there. So now I've decided I'm going to play bio. Again, I should be adding some tanks, but I'm like, well, let's try out playing pure bio. So I'm just adding a lot more barracks. And the thing with pure bio is as soon as you kind of identify the fact that they're going max, and so that's just from my point of view. I haven't quite identified that yet, but I'm doing a little bit of harass with the Viking over here. At this point, I can tell he's going pure mech. I mean, 2 Ravens and only a couple Marines and mostly siege tanks. If their mobile army is responding to siege tanks, they're probably going mech, because if they're going bio, they would have had a squad of like 10 Marines clean that up, not not a couple siege tanks. So if your opponent's going mech, what you really want to do is make sure to keep control of almost the entire map, because mech pushes can be really strong because siege tanks are cost efficient versus every ground unit. But whenever they're in the danger zone, the danger zones, if enemy army is close to them, they have to always keep a couple tanks siege or risk getting caught on siege. So the more map presence you have, the slower they have to progress across the map, because they always have to make sure that they're safe from being attacked. So one thing I'm doing here that's pretty bad is I'm suiciding my whole army. This is not something you want to do. So suiciding your army is definitely a mistake. I just kind of ran in there, was looking away for a second. You never want to suicide your army no matter what matchup. But one thing you do want to do against mech, it's a good idea, is you want to try to take extra side expansions. The reason why this is true is because if they send a couple tanks, you can just send a medevac full of marauders and clean it up without a problem, right? So I'm taking both these corner expansions over here. And then the other reason why it's good, well, the reason why is because their mobile harass unit, let's say he takes that corner expansion. I can drop some marauders and marines, I kill the SCVs, I kill all of his command center, and he loses a lot of damage, right? If he tries to take expansion at these side bases. His mobile option is mass Hellions. And mass Hellions can kill a lot of SCVs, but they cannot kill a command center. So that's the most important part, is that command center. It's going to be safe against mech play, so you can go ahead and throw those off at the sides. Of course, always try to control the middle. If it kicks off your one hurt marine, bring an extra guy. Now, as I mentioned before, he can Hellion harasser expansions. So as soon as you start thinking about transferring some workers over to your expansions, you want to escort them, or at least leave a couple bio units there as well, preferably at least with 1 or 2 marauders in a mix, because they're good against Hellions. One thing you'll see a lot of pro gamers do in this situation is they'll put a bunker and just leave like 1 marauder in a bunker or something like that, or just leave a marauder outside of a bunker, marauder and 2 marines. I grab a few extra units, and this is the reason why I'm grabbing a few extra units. It's because not only does this defend this location, but it provides for a potential counterattack to the third if I kill those rocks, and also a flank on his army. So having disposition is very, very good. In fact, let's actually jump into the map and talk about general bio versus mech type of play and where you want to position your units. So I'm assuming you're at the bottom right, and you've got, let's just mark all the bases you've got control of. That was terrible. Let me work on my lettering skills. So I'm just going to write a little bit of a money sign for all the bases I have, right? Let me fix that one too. So these are all my bases, right? And the potential threat point where I want to be able to converge upon is basically right here, right? And it's kind of like there's 2 ways to control the middle. One is, it's like just like chess, right? One is you can put a bunch of guys in the middle, then you've got control of that. Of course, the other way is just have a lot of potential attack paths towards the middle with different units. So if they can't take the middle, because you can attack either on different angles, you apply pressure in other places, or you can actually just apply pressure on the middle. So if you can have a squad of guys up here, a squad of guys here, and a squad of guys over here, this gives you so many options, right? You can do a 3-way on the middle, right? Boom, boom, boom. Not to mention, if they move out too far in the middle, you can slip around over here, and you can slip around along this side. So you've got so many different attack paths. You really want to try to spread units out. Just make sure that each of your small squadrons is like self-sufficient against a swarm of Hellions coming after them, because even though Hellions aren't great against Marauders, they're great against Marines. If you have just a couple of Marauders, they can be swarmed over by the Hellions, and the Hellions can run away. So that's their mobile force. So each one of these little control groups should be Hellion-proof. And then you can spread out a little more on the map. But you got to keep vision of their army too, so you know when they move out how to move around correspondingly to deal with them. So it's good to have these little squads of guys across the map, not just to defend your extra expansions, but also so you can converge on them if they do anything mean with Hellions. Like right here, for example, he's going to come in and harass. Losing the guy building the command center is really bad, because it slows your command center down for a lot. It's pretty inevitable though when the Hellions come in. So you just want to hide. If you have another worker there, you can just hide him in the corner. And then, you know, once you chase these Hellions off and kill them, you can go back to building that command center. It's all good and gravy. And meanwhile, remember, you have your rally crew over here. You have this troop that is kind of your main army over here. And you have another little squad over here. And then this also gives you an advantage if they station units around the map to try to poke around. I mean, I don't know what he's doing with Marines and a medevac going mech. But that could be 4 Hellions in a medevac, or could just be a group of Hellions. You know, they want to poke around, get map vision. You can kind of try to come in from 2 different angles here and cut off his retreat with an extra army. So there's multiple advantages to having the units kind of spread out around the map. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is when you're going bio versus mech. If you're, I mean, the standard thing is to get a lot of tanks and get a great economic advantage, but it's also something you notice Quiet Rice does this a lot too, and actually, I think I've seen Polt do it a lot, and a couple other top green players. You can just try to transition into Sky Terran and go for those battle cruisers. Of course, you got to get the Viking control first as well. And so that was a really nasty Widow Mine, by the way. I just lost like 2 medevacs to that Widow Mine. Widow Mines are so good, man. That's a side note. Anyways, so when I'm transitioning to battle cruisers, of course, I'm just building it back into base, saving up some money because I'm going to need to obviously build battle cruisers, which are very expensive. But there's one thing you want to do. If you notice my food's high, I can't fit very many battle cruisers into production, right? So when you're trying to transition to battle cruisers, the first thing is it's a good idea if you have tanks to try to get a defensive tank line. Like I can put it right here. I could even have my tank line back here. And wherever that defensive tank line is it'll protect you from any like massive invasion while you're investing in those battle cruisers. If for some reason you're crazy like me and you decide to try to play a tankless TVT, what you want to do is you know that if they have a tanks in their army in a straight up battle, they're gonna beat you because tanks win in straight up battles. But what you want to do is you want to try to delay that major straight up battle, and the way to do that is by a lot of small exchanges, because every time you come into a small exchange you burn a point defense drone, you burn a couple seeker missiles there. Those are actually, seeker missiles are pretty good. You burn the Raven energy, you kill some Hellions. That slows down their push because they need to, those are like their buffer things that they need to do to keep going and push. So a lot of these small trades not only buy you time to delay the major engagement, but they clear up some food where you can pretty soon here I should start cranking out a whole bunch of these bad boys. I'm already getting some. You can get that food available to get those battle cruiser production on route. So as you can see here, constantly just coming in, doing a small engagement, trying to take out a couple of the lead elements of this army. And then am I going to commit to the major fight against bulk of his army? No, right? I'm just going to, you know, pick off an area unit or 2 there and run away. And then I'm going to try to feint over here, do more damage again, trying to scan to get rid of some of these Widow Mines. All these things, these small little engagements and trades, the whole point is just to delay the major engagement. Because if you delay it long enough, as we can fast forward here for the next minute or 2, you delay that major engagement long enough. Another little small trade here that I'm just going to run away in just a second. Or actually, this time I just lost a lot, guys. Here I actually wanted to lose them just because I want to clear up more food for even more battle cruisers. The longer you delay those major engagements, all of a sudden you can roll out with a force. And he just scanned me, and he's like, oh no. Now he's basically screwed because I've got a ton of battle cruisers here, and basically I'm going to wipe the 4th them. Now one thing I do is as my battle cruiser count gets higher, right, this is pretty important, as your battle cruiser count gets higher, your non-battle cruiser army is going to be weaker. So you can't really do those small trades against their army anymore. What you've got to do is go for small trades by attacking in a counterattack fashion. So use a small army here, get a couple Hellbats, you know, kill some infrastructure, do some damage, trade off these units, and then when they die, you replace them all. Look at the production tab, mostly with battle cruisers, right? Getting some more medevacs too. And then the battle cruisers can just roll through the middle and get a win the game. You modu all the tanks, you modu all the Ravens, you modu all the Vikings, you modu all the turrets, you modu all everything, and then you win. So the couple things to keep in mind if you're trying to do this battle cruiser transition. The first thing, build tanks, right? Don't always do what I do. Build tanks. They're a great utensil, and they're especially stronger in Heart of the Swarm because you don't need to invest in that siege mode. So even if you want to go mostly bio, 3 tanks to help you hold positions are going to be so powerful, and it's 3/4 the cost roughly, because instead of getting 3 tanks with siege mode, it's just 3 tanks. If you're going mass tanks, that siege mode edition is not a significant cost, but for adding a couple siege tanks into your army, it's much more viable to do so now than it was before, just because you start with that upgrade. It's just a really powerful tool you have now. So go ahead and add a couple tanks. Make sure to mass expand against mech play. Spread your army out to protect from Hellion harass and to give you opportunities for counterattacks and flanks. So that wraps it up for this segment about me trying my hand at some TVT on a Heart of the Swarm ladder. Take a short break, then beyond to a Protoss vs. Terran game about trying to figure out how much more useful Phoenixes are now with that extra range they have.